A young boy watches his father leave for work every single night, never knowing if he'll come home. Then one fateful evening, everything changes. His father encounters something inexplicable on a dark highway. Two people who seem to be under some kind of supernatural influence. What starts as a routine traffic stop spirals into violence, betrayal, and a tragedy that will haunt this boy for decades. But here's where it gets interesting. This tragedy will eventually awaken something extraordinary within him. A power so rare, so divine, that it will make him humanity's unlikely weapon against pure evil itself. If you haven't subscribed yet, this story will explain why you absolutely need to. Let's dive in. We're transported back several decades to South Korea, where we meet a young boy named Yong-hoo. His life is already marked by loss. His mother passed away when he was just a child, leaving him with only his father to rely on. His dad, Sergeant Park, works as a highway patrol officer. It's dangerous work, the kind that keeps a child awake at night, wondering if every knock on the door brings bad news. One particular evening, Sergeant Park is working his shift when he spots a suspicious vehicle on the highway. Something about it doesn't sit right with him. When he approaches and looks inside, he sees two young people who appear almost disconnected from reality. They seem dazed, almost as if they're under some kind of spell or control. And then he notices something distinctly unsettling. The driver is wearing an unusual ring shaped like a crow. In many cultures, crows are symbols of death and dark omens. This detail would prove to be significant. Sergeant Park asks the driver to perform a breathalyzer test, but instead of complying, the young man panics. He slams on the accelerator and tries to flee. In a desperate attempt to stop him, Sergeant Park grabs onto the car door, holding on for dear life. But what happens next is brutal. The driver violently shakes him loose and throws him hard onto the asphalt. Sergeant Park hits the ground with tremendous force, sustaining severe injuries. An ambulance rushes him to the hospital, where doctors deliver crushing news. His condition is critical. Young Yang-hoo's world crumbles. He's already lost his mother. The possibility of losing his father, too, becomes unbearable. In his desperation and pain, the boy does something he's never done before. He runs to a nearby church, and with tears streaming down his face, he prays. He begs God to save his father. In that moment of raw vulnerability, a young priest notices the boy and sits beside him. This priest, whose name we'll later learn is Father An, offers him comfort. He tells Yong-hoo something that will echo through the rest of his life, that faith has the power to do impossible things. The boy holds onto those words like a lifeline. That night, exhausted and emotionally drained, Yong-hoo falls asleep at home. And something extraordinary happens. He dreams of his father. In the dream, Sergeant Park appears calm and peaceful, standing before his son. He imparts final wisdom, telling Yong-hoo to always be a good person, to help those in need. As his father turns to leave, he grabs Yong-hoo's right hand, and a strange glowing energy radiates from his palm. It's ethereal, almost otherworldly. But the dream becomes a nightmare when Yong-hoo wakes to devastating news. His father didn't survive. The injuries were too severe. Young Yong-hoo has now lost both parents. At the funeral, surrounded by grieving family and friends, the young priest from the church appears to offer condolences. But Yong-hoo is consumed by anger and betrayal. He prayed with every fiber of his being, he believed. And yet nothing changed. God didn't listen. In a moment of explosive rage, Yong-hoo grabs a crucifix and hurls it at the priest, screaming that God abandoned him. From that day forward, Yong-hoo's faith dies along with his father. He stops believing entirely. Years pass. Young Yong-hoo transforms himself through discipline and pain. Instead of seeking spiritual strength, he builds physical strength. He enters the world of professional MMA fighting and becomes obsessed with becoming unbeatable. Through relentless training and raw determination, he ascends to the top of his sport. He becomes a middleweight champion with an undefeated record. He's fast, brutal, and nearly invincible in the cage. One day, Yong-hoo travels to the United States for a high-stakes championship match against an American fighter named John White. John is hungry, determined to claim the title. But the moment the fight begins, it's clear this is a mismatch. Yong-hoo's reflexes are supernatural. He dodges John's opening kick without effort and counters with a devastating punch. John crumples to the mat, knocked out cold. But here's where things get disturbing. Yong-hoo doesn't stop. Even though John is already defeated and unconscious, something dark takes over. Yong-hoo's eyes fill with rage, and he continues attacking the fallen fighter. It takes the referee rushing in to finally stop the onslaught. Yong-hoo's victory is secured, but his behavior is alarming. There's something broken inside him, something that's hunger for violence. After the fight, Yong-hoo boards a plane heading back to Seoul. During the flight, he falls asleep, and his father visits him again in a dream. But this time, it's different. They're standing in a dark, cold mausoleum. The atmosphere is heavy and ominous. Sergeant Park tells his son to follow him down a long hallway. At the end, there's an altar with a crucifix. Even in this dream, Yang-hoo's anger at God surfaces. He reaches for the cross, wanting to destroy it, to throw it away. But something impossible happens. The cross adheres to his hand, burning with intense heat. Flames erupt across his skin, and the pain is unbearable. Young-hoo wakes up in panic on the plane, drenched in sweat. But then he notices something terrifying. His hand is actually bleeding. The wound is real. The dream somehow manifested in physical reality. He bandages his hand and tries to move on, but that night in his apartment, something genuinely horrifying occurs. While he's sleeping, a dark, shadow-like entity materializes in his room. It moves slowly toward him, suffocating him with dread. Yang-hoo tries to move, tries to open his eyes, but he's completely paralyzed, trapped in a state between sleep and wakefulness. This is a phenomenon known as sleep paralysis, but whatever is happening feels far more sinister than psychology can explain. Then the entity notices the wound on Young-hoo's hand. For reasons unexplained, it becomes terrified and vanishes into the darkness. Confused and frightened, Yang-hoo rushes to a hospital. Doctors run every test imaginable, but they find nothing physically wrong with him. The wound shouldn't exist, yet it does. They suggest he visit another facility for further evaluation. Young-hoo is completely lost, trapped in a mystery that medicine cannot solve. During a conversation with his driver, Young-hoo hears a strange story. The driver mentions his niece, Hong Jin, who experienced something bizarre when she was 15 years old. She suddenly lost the ability to sleep. Then blood began pouring from her eyes. Eventually, she lost her eyesight completely. But instead of a dead end, her mother took her to a shaman, where everything changed. The shaman discovered that Hong Jin possessed a rare supernatural ability. After training, she never regained her sight, but she gained something else. She could now perceive supernatural entities and spiritual energies invisible to ordinary people. Despite his skepticism, Wang-hoo is desperate for answers. He reaches out to Hong Jin and travels to a sanctuary outside the bustling city to meet her. When they meet, he shows her the mysterious wound on his hand. Hong Jin closes her eyes and uses her supernatural perception. What she senses from his hand is remarkable, a bright, powerful energy. She tells him to seek out a specific church across Seoul. The answers he needs are there. Still disbelieving, but increasingly desperate, Yong-hoo decides to investigate. But when he arrives at the church, something immediately blocks his path. A massive flock of crows suddenly materializes at the entrance, as if deliberately trying to prevent him from entering. The symbolism is clear and unsettling. Instead of confronting this omen head-on, Young-hoo finds an alternate entrance and slips inside through the back. What he discovers inside is shocking. Two priests, Father An and Father Choi, are actively performing an exorcism on a possessed young man. The boy thrashes against his restraints, his body contorting in unnatural ways. The priests are desperately trying to free him from the evil spirit inhabiting his body. But the possession is powerful. The young man breaks free from his chair and violently attacks Father An, slamming him hard. Father Choi intervenes, pulling the possessed boy away, but things escalate. The boy vomits a thick black substance that sends Father Choi fleeing in absolute terror. Now completely uncontrolled, the possessed youth charges directly at Father An with lethal intent. But at this critical moment, Yang-hoo intervenes. Using his fighting skis, he hurls the young man backward and tries to restrain him. This is where everything shifts. The moment Yang-hoo makes contact with the possessed boy using his wounded hand, something miraculous happens. A brilliant white flame erupts from the wound, engulfing the boy's head in sacred fire. Seeing the opening, Father An quickly splashes holy water onto the burning youth. Rather than extinguishing the flames, the holy water intensifies them. The evil spirit screams as it's incinerated and expelled from the boy's body. The exorcism succeeds. The young man collapses, finally free. Father An stands in absolute shock, staring at Yonghu's hand. He explains what Yonghu has witnessed on his own skin, something called stigmata. These are marks similar to the wounds Jesus Christ suffered during crucifixion. According to Catholic theology, individuals marked with stigmata sometimes receive extraordinary spiritual gifts: the ability to heal, to perceive evil, or to combat demonic forces directly. Yang Hu is deeply skeptical of all of this, yet he can't deny what just occurred. Father An invites himself to Yang Hu's apartment to discuss everything further. Once there, Father An performs a prayer to bless the space and protect it from malevolent spirits. While looking around, Father An spots an old photograph, Yang Hu as a little boy with his father. Recognition flashes across the priest's face. He realizes this is the same boy he prayed with years ago before Sergeant Park's death. But he keeps this revelation to himself, choosing not to reveal what he knows. Before leaving, Father An gives Yang Hu a simple but meaningful gift: a necklace with a cross, telling him to keep it close for spiritual protection. That same night, Father An contacts the Vatican with urgent information. He reports that he's discovered evidence of a dangerous figure, a rogue bishop operating in Seoul who serves dark forces. This bishop, he explains, has been systematically choosing innocent people to become possessed, using them as vessels for demonic purposes. The Vatican takes the warning seriously. What Father An doesn't know is the identity of this evil bishop. His name is Ji Shin, and he operates a nightclub called Babylon on the surface level. But beneath his respectable public persona lies something far more sinister. Ji Shin is the same person who murdered Yonghu's father all those years ago. The connection is there, though neither man knows it yet. Deep beneath his nightclub, Gi Shin has constructed a hidden chamber. Here at a dark altar, he worships an ancient evil entity, a being he calls the Sacred Serpent. In exchange for immortality and eternal youth, Jishin offers human souls to this creature, systematically destroying lives throughout Seoul. He's not just a criminal. He's a servant of demonic power itself. Meanwhile, Father An attempts to rally other priests to join him in fighting this darkness, but most refuse. Fear paralyzes them. Father An returns home feeling isolated and hopeless, but he's surprised to find Yonghu waiting outside his residence. Yonghu explains that after their apartment meeting, strange occurrences have intensified. He still can't sleep. The mark on his hand continues to worsen. He needs help. Father An provides Yonghu with a special rosary blessed by the Pope himself, explaining that it offers protection against demonic forces. He also shares something deeply personal. He tells Yonghu that the strongest weapon against evil is faith. But Yonghu immediately shakes his head. He lost his faith when his father died. He prayed desperately and still lost everything. How can he believe in God? Hearing this, Father An opens up about his own tragedy. He once had a mentor who taught him everything about exorcisms. When that mentor died, Father An's faith shattered too. He became angry and confused, just like Yonghu. But over time, he came to understand something crucial. God's plans are often incomprehensible in the moment. Even when life feels profoundly unfair, faith can eventually provide answers and healing. The connection between these two broken men deepens. Yonghu begins to respect Father An genuinely. When the priest mentions the danger of continuing alone, Yonghu offers to help. He volunteers to be Father An's driver and backup, no matter where the priest needs to go. During one drive, Father An receives an emergency call about a possible possession at an apartment building. Before entering, Father An thanks Yonghu and heads inside alone. But something makes Yonghu hesitate. For just a moment, when he looks at Father An, he sees his father's face. An overwhelming sense of dread washes over him. He fears something terrible will happen to the priest. Against Father An's wishes, Yonghu follows him inside, carefully hiding the stigmata wound beneath a glove. They enter the home of a frightened young mother whose face is covered with brutal injuries. She points upstairs to her daughter's room. She explains that her daughter, Sujin, has been possessed by an evil force. Together, they climb the stairs, tension mounting with every step. Before entering Sujin's room, Father An draws a sacred cross on the doorframe using a special pencil made from blessed olive wood. This, he explains, will prevent the spirit from escaping. They enter cautiously. Inside, they find Sujin sitting calmly on her bed, appearing completely normal and confused by their sudden arrival. Father Ann's initial assessment is that the girl is pretending innocence. He raises a crucifix in front of her face, expecting a violent reaction. Instead, nothing happens. Sujin calmly touches the cross, completely unaffected. She explains that her mother suffers from severe depression and likely inflicted the injuries on herself. Father Ann remains suspicious, so he presses another cross against her skin. Again, no reaction. Confused, Father Ann steps outside with Yong-hu and reveals his theory. The evil spirit might be hiding deep within her body, dormant until provoked. He decides on a more aggressive approach. Without warning, Father Ann and Yong-hu force holy water down Sujin's throat. The reaction is immediate and horrifying. Sujin begins coughing and vomiting blood. Her face contorts into something demonic, revealing the evil presence within her. She violently attacks Father Ann, hurling him against the wall. Yong-hu jumps in to restrain her, but she suddenly levitates, floating in the air, and throws Yong-hu toward the ceiling with supernatural force. Then comes a moment that changes everything. The possessed girl stares directly at Yong-hu with glowing red eyes and reveals something that ignites pure rage within him. The spirit claims responsibility for killing his father. The words hit like a bomb. Years of buried anger explode from within Yong-hu. He attacks without thinking, driven purely by vengeance and grief. Father Ann struggles to hold him back, but Yong-hu's fury is overwhelming. The evil spirit whispers to him, trying to drive him deeper into darkness. But somehow, Yong-hu manages to regain control of himself. He removes his glove and touches Sujin's face with his marked hand. Bright flames burst across her head as the spirit screams in agony. Father Ann seizes the opportunity and pours holy water over her. This time, the combined power is unstoppable. The evil spirit is forced out completely, its final scream echoing through the room. Sujin collapses, finally free. After Sujin recovers, Father Ann gently asks if she's encountered anyone strange recently, someone who might be connected to the mysterious bishop. But before she can answer, something horrifying occurs. Blood streams from her eyes, and she grabs her throat in agony. What neither Yong-hu nor Father Ann realizes is that far away, in his secret underground chamber, Ji-shin is performing a terrifying ritual. He's created a voodoo doll connected to Sujin and is attacking it through dark magic, trying to kill her remotely as punishment for her exorcism. Back at the apartment, Sujin writhes in pain as an invisible force attacks her body. Father Ann immediately understands what's happening. Someone is using dark magic from a distance. Without hesitation, he begins praying with intense conviction. The power of his faith is so strong that Ji-shin's crow-shaped ring suddenly ignites in flames. The voodoo doll catches fire. The dark connection is severed. Sujin stops suffering, and her life is saved. Later, as Father Ann and Yong-hu share dinner, they talk more personally. Father Ann asks why Yong-hu is helping him, risking his safety. Yong-hu reveals something deeply emotional. Before his father died, Sergeant Park appeared in his dreams and told him to always help people in need. Even though Yong-hu struggles to believe in God or the supernatural, he feels compelled to honor his father's final wish. This explanation deepens their bond immensely. Meanwhile, Gishin is already plotting his next move. He performs a dark ritual, asking the sacred serpent to change his appearance. His form shifts, and he now looks exactly like Father Choi, another priest. Using this disguise, he infiltrates a Catholic orphanage where he spots a lonely boy named Hosuk being bullied and beaten by other children. Ji-shin approaches him with false kindness, offering to teach him how to become stronger so no one will ever hurt him again. Hosuk, desperate and vulnerable, agrees. But this decision becomes his downfall. Gishin performs a dark ritual and forces multiple evil spirits directly into Hosuk's body. Later, Gishin encounters Yong-hu near Father Ann's apartment building. Still disguised as Father Choi, he lies to Yong-hu, claiming he used to work with Father Ann. Then he plants a seed of doubt, warning Yong-hu not to trust Father Ann, suggesting the priest is secretly an evil person. The warning unsettles Yong-hu, creating exactly the kind of division Ji-shin intended. The next morning, Father Ann receives an emergency call from the orphanage. A student has suddenly become possessed. Knowing he needs assistance, Father Ann calls Yong-hu. But because of the doubt Gishin planted, Yong-hu ignores the call. He's unsure, conflicted. Then Yong-hu's manager calls with an incredible business opportunity, a massive fight in the United States with millions of dollars on the line. Everything seems set for Young-hoo to walk away from all of this supernatural chaos and return to his normal life of fighting and fortune. But something deep within him resists. A voice in his gut tells him something terrible is happening. Against the promise of riches, Young-hoo calls Father An back. A nun answers instead and explains the dire situation at the orphanage. Young-hoo immediately abandons everything and speeds toward the orphanage. Inside, the situation is dire. Hosuk, now fully possessed, is violently attacking Father An, punching him repeatedly in the face. The priest is barely surviving the assault. One brave nun grabs a crucifix and attempts to drive the spirit out, but she's not strong enough. The possessed boy suddenly lunges at her, grabbing her throat, choking the life out of her. Then Young-hoo arrives like a guardian angel. Without hesitation, he throws the possessed boy away from the nun, saving her life. Once again, Young-hoo must use his supernatural power. He removes his glove and places his stigmata-marked hand on Hosuk's face. Bright white flames explode across the boy's skin. Young-hoo then grabs Father An's holy water and pours it onto the flames. The sacred fire grows stronger, burning away every evil spirit trapped inside the boy. The exorcism succeeds. Hosuk is freed and Father An is saved. Later, when they gently ask Hosuk what happened, he only remembers a man dressed as a priest approaching him. This confirmation tells Father An that the disguised Ji Shin is indeed the Bishop of Darkness he's been searching for. As Young-hoo and Father An leave the room, something heartwarming occurs. The orphanage children gather around Young-hoo and hug him tightly, thanking him for saving their friend. For the first time in years, Young-hoo feels genuine happiness. He's finally fulfilling his father's wish, helping people in need. The emptiness inside him starts to fill. On the way back, Young-hoo apologizes for ignoring Father An's earlier call. The priest simply smiles and tells him something profound. He believes Young-hoo is becoming someone chosen for this purpose, almost a messenger of God. Young-hoo still doubts, still questions whether he truly believes in God. But Father An is certain. Even after multiple failures, Gishin refuses to surrender. Back at his dark altar, he begins another terrifying ritual. This time, he uses his dark power to possess the orphanage's guard dog. The animal, now controlled by an evil spirit, is secretly freed from its chain. That night, Hosuk is sleeping peacefully in his room at the orphanage. Then he hears someone softly calling his name. Confused, he gets out of bed to investigate. The moment he steps outside, the possessed dog attacks him with savage fury. Hosuk has no chance to escape or fight back. The attack is brutal and fatal. After killing Hosuk, Gishin coldly offers the boy's soul to the sacred serpent. As a reward, the dark entity gives Gishin one of its poisonous fangs, a deadly weapon filled with lethal venom. Father An receives a devastating call from the orphanage. A terrible tragedy has occurred. He and Young-hoo rush to the morgue and discover Hosuk's lifeless body, deep bite marks covering his neck. The sight devastates both of them. Father An says a prayer for the boy, but Young-hoo notices something else. A strange man watching from across the room. Young-hoo's instincts scream that this is the Bishop of Darkness. Without thinking, he chases after the mysterious figure, leaving Father An alone. But this is exactly what Gishin anticipated. The moment Young-hoo leaves, the body bag containing Hosuk's corpse begins moving. Father An slowly opens it, and to his shock, Hosuk sits up and asks for help. Father An, overwhelmed with guilt, hugs the boy tightly, thinking he's somehow survived. It's all an illusion created by Gishin. Suddenly, the real Gishin appears and stabs Father An with the poisonous fang. The priest screams in agony as the deadly venom enters his bloodstream. Young-hoo hears the scream and rushes back immediately. When he enters the morgue, he finally comes face to face with Gishin, the true Bishop of Darkness. Gishin holds Father An hostage and makes a horrifying offer. Give up the supernatural power in his hand, and the priest will be spared. Without hesitation, Young-hoo agrees to the trade. But Father An refuses to let Young-hoo sacrifice himself. Instead, the priest chooses to protect him. In a shocking act of redemption, Father An stabs himself with the poisoned fang, ensuring the venom spreads through his body. Terrified, Young-hoo carries the dying priest away. They rush to Father Choi's house. The moment Father Choi sees Father An's condition, he lays him on a bed and begins praying desperately, attempting to reverse the curse. Watching this breaks Young-hoo's heart completely. Once again, someone he cares deeply about is dying in front of him, just like his parents. Feeling hopeless, Yong-hu walks into a chapel and makes one final prayer. Standing before an image of Jesus on the cross, he begs God with complete sincerity to save Father Anne. He truly means it this time. He asks with all his heart, but no miracle comes, no answer materializes. Once again, Yong-hu feels abandoned by God. Filled with frustration and pain, Yong-hu decides that if God won't help, then he will save Father Anne himself through any means necessary. Before he leaves, Father Choi gives him something crucial, a special cassock blessed by the Vatican that will work like armor against evil forces. Yong-hu puts it on underneath his clothes and then jumps on his motorcycle, speeding away toward Babylon nightclub. When he arrives, he asks Sujin one crucial question. Where can he find Ji-shin? Using her knowledge, she gives him a card for the nightclub. Now Yong-hu knows exactly where the Dark Bishop is hiding. The moment Yong-hu reaches the nightclub entrance, trouble erupts. Gishin's guards block his path, and these aren't ordinary security personnel. Every single one is possessed by an evil spirit. They attack Yong-hu simultaneously in a coordinated assault. This is where Yong-hu's championship-level fighting ability shines. What follows is a brutal, intense combat sequence. Yong-hu blocks punches, dodges attacks, lands devastating kicks and combinations, fighting multiple enemies at once. His training is evident in every movement, but the numbers are overwhelming. Slowly, the possessed guards start gaining the upper hand. Realizing he needs a different strategy, Yong-hu steps back momentarily. Then he removes the clothes, covering the Vatican-blessed cassock. He pours holy water onto the stigmata wound in his hand. Now his true power awakens. Every punch from his blessed hand creates an explosion of holy flames. One by one, the possessed guards are overwhelmed. Their spirits burn away in divine fire. Finally, only one guard remains. The final battle is intense and brutal, both combatants throwing heavy punches and kicks. But Yong-hu proves superior. He defeats the last enemy and burns away the spirit controlling him. Now, there's only one person left to face, Gishin himself. Deep in his underground chamber, Gishin desperately prays to the sacred serpent, begging for more power. But the ancient evil creature demands a far greater sacrifice. It orders Gishin to stab his own heart with the poisonous fang. Without hesitation, Gishin obeys. He collapses and falls into the dark well in front of the altar. For terrifying seconds, everything goes silent. Then Gishin rises back up, but he's no longer human. He's transformed into a terrifying hybrid creature, part man, part serpent, covered in dark power and twisted mutations. His body is horrifying, filled with demonic energy. He's now far stronger than before. Jishin challenges Yong-hu to one final confrontation. Yong-hu attacks immediately, using the holy power from the stigmata in his hand, attempting to burn the monster with sacred flames. But nothing happens. For the first time, his power fails completely. Gishin easily blocks the attack and violently throws Yong-hu against a wall. Yong-hu is shocked. He's never faced anything this powerful before. Still, he refuses to surrender. He slowly stands up, ready to fight again. But Jishin launches a surprise attack, biting deep into Yong-hu's shoulder and throwing him to the ground with crushing force. Yong-hu loses consciousness completely. In that darkness, something miraculous happens. Yong-hu finds himself in a quiet, luminous place filled with light. From a glowing portal, his father emerges. Yong-hu becomes emotionally overwhelmed. After all these years, he sees his father again. Without hesitation, he runs and hugs him tightly. For a moment, he wishes to stay there forever. But Sergeant Park gently tells his son that it's not his time yet. His mission remains incomplete. There are still people who need his help. Holding Yong-hu's hand, Sergeant Park gives him strength one final time. A much more powerful energy awakens within Yong-hu's stigmata. Yong-hu opens his eyes and returns to the real world. This time, the stigmata shines brilliantly. A massive white flame erupts from his palm, far more powerful than before. Now stronger than ever, Yong-hu stands and challenges Ji-shin to a final battle. This time, the fight is balanced. The two enemies clash in an epic battle. Ji-shin attacks wildly with sharp claws, trying to tear Yong-hu apart. Yong-hu fights back with flaming punches powered by holy energy. The battle is brutal. Punch after punch, attack after attack. Neither wants to lose. But slowly, Ji-shin weakens. Yong-hu senses his opportunity, gathers every ounce of power into his hand, and delivers one final punch that slams Ji-shin to the ground. The fight is finally over. Yang-hu quickly uses his holy flames to destroy the poisonous fangs. The moment the fangs melt, Father An is finally freed from the deadly curse. His life is saved. Just as Yang-hu prepares to leave, something terrifying appears. The sacred serpent reveals its true form. The giant creature is covered in countless human arms and is more horrifying than anything Yang-hu has faced. But it doesn't attack him. Instead, the monster grabs Gishin's body and drags him back into the well as punishment for failing. At last, the nightmare is over. After the difficult battle, Yang-hu returns to Father Choi's house. To his relief, Father An is completely healed. Days later, Father Choi receives a letter from Father An. In it, Father An reveals that both he and Yang-hu are now at the Vatican. And surprisingly, Yang-hu has agreed to train as an exorcist. The same man who once completely stopped believing in God. The boy who threw a crucifix at a priest in rage is now preparing to fight evil spirits and help people in desperate need. He's finally fulfilled his father's final wish in the most profound way possible. Father An also leaves behind his cross necklace for Father Choi, delivering a final message. Evil spirits will return someday, he warns. Everyone must remain vigilant and prepared for whatever darkness comes next. And that's where this incredible story ends. So, what did you think about this movie? The transformation of Yang-hu from a faithless, vengeful fighter into an instrument of divine justice is absolutely remarkable. The way the film explores themes of loss, redemption, and the power of faith is genuinely compelling. But I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below right now and tell me, what was your favorite moment in this film? Was it the shocking revelation that Gishin killed his father? The exorcism scenes? Or that final epic battle between Yang-hu and the demonic Gishin? And here's the thing. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, what are you waiting for? We break down incredible movies like this one every single week. We dive deep into stories you won't hear explained anywhere else. New movie recaps, plot breakdowns, and analysis videos are coming constantly. Hit that subscribe button now so you never miss out. Also, smash that like button if you enjoyed this breakdown. It helps us reach more people who love great storytelling. And turn on notifications so you get alerted the moment we upload new content. Thank you so much for watching. This story of faith, sacrifice, and redemption deserves to be shared. Let me know in the comments what you thought, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.